Welcome, welcome everyone to this webinar with Jackie Beere on coaching for school improvement. We've got a very large number of registrations for this webinar from people all around the world, a very large cohort from Australia. So welcome to you when you eventually receive the recording. And I just wanted to say a couple of words introducing Jackie Beere and the program. Teaching Times wanted to launch a series of training programs for schools because we feel that after the lockdown and the pandemic, things really needed to change in education and not go back to where we were before. I know lots of educationists felt that, but it's been very hard to effect that change. So the training programs that we've launched are radical programs to address some of these issues. We're looking at well-being, we're looking at coaching throughout the school, which is Jackie's program. We're looking at developing thinking skills for children, and generally developing a radical approach to education to change some key fundamentals that are proving very problematic now. Pupil absenteeism is becoming a huge problem in the UK. I don't know elsewhere, but the old standards like behaviour and toxic staff cultures, they're still there as they were 30 years ago when Teaching Times first started publishing. So one of the great things about this program and why we're so keen on it as a company and as a community of educationists is that coaching, if embedded throughout the school, could transform relationships and the whole nature of school very radically. And we feel this program by Jackie Beere more than begins to address this. And we're delighted to be publishing it, and delighted today to host this webinar with some great guests. So I think you'll all enjoy it. So with that, I'd like to hand over to Jackie to talk about the program, and feel free to answer questions in the chat room, as I'm sure Jackie will tell you, and to engage as much as possible. Thanks so much, and over to you, Jackie.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us. My name's Jackie Beere. I've been a primary school teacher, I've been a secondary school teacher, AST, I've been head of a large secondary school, I've been a trainer and now I'm a coach. And I really want to talk to you today about sharing what coaching could do for you. I'm so lucky today to have two guests as well that are going to be talking a bit later. My hero, Andy Vass, who is someone who's been a head teacher as well as a school leader, has been a psychologist, has also been a coach and is an author and is doing amazing things working with schools, helping them develop coaching in their schools. And I've also got Lisa Stone, who has been a school leader and introduced this very type of program. In fact, it's been my inspiration to develop this program. So I'll be introducing them a bit later. Now, I want to sort of imagine that there was a way that we hadn't really thought of yet properly to empower everyone in your school, that's teachers, TAs, admin staff, students, everybody, to empower them with a sort of sense of being conscious and curious about their own thinking and why they sometimes feel bad and sometimes feel good and sometimes, you know, get upset and sometimes feel frustrated and feel unhappy. Because coaching can do this very thing. It can actually empower your staff. And I'm talking not about hierarchical coaching. I mean, I do that. I coach international school leaders, and there's not one that I coach that doesn't say, do you know what, we need this for everyone, because it makes such a difference to how they feel about themselves, how they feel about their job, how they feel about their life, you know, their personal life. So the magic of coaching is that it actually means that you can hold up a mirror to somebody's thinking. You can ask the sort of questions and do the sort of deep listening that makes a true human connection. And imagine if you were able to have that going on as part of your general school coaching conversations, not just for teachers, but for students as well. And imagine if that was the way you delivered your CPD, bespoke coaching conversations about introducing that new behavior program or that new assessment regime, whatever it might be. This is what a coach, embedding peer coaching, can do for you. The program that I'm going to introduce you to very briefly before we hear from Andy and Lisa actually covers all aspects of coaching, so that it is not hugely challenging, because you're going to introduce it to all your staff. You're going to make sure that everybody gets a chance, not in a compulsory way and not in a hierarchical way, to experience what it's like to have a short coaching conversation with someone. I'm going to share my slides with you.
And it was,
So if you wouldn't mind turning your mics off and making sure that they're not on, and if you've got any questions, put in the chat. That would be absolutely fantastic. So if you could
he was
turn
one
off
of the
your mic.
barristers, and he was going, Judge, I'm not a cat.
Turn off. Mute your mic, please, Claire. Thank you.
The judge didn't look very impressed.
Right.
Sorry.
No, so Riley.
Yeah, this book. I mean, I will speak to him tomorrow.
Basically,
Claire,
he
could you
doesn't do
mute
anything.
your
Right. I went and sat with
Claire,
him
please?
a couple of times. Well, I tried to sit with him, and I said, because I honestly thought, Claire, you know, maybe it's a processing thing. If I offer to scribe for him,
Daniel, could
he
you
sees that you can get a good
Claire?
result through
No.
using a scribe. It might, you know, inspire him.
Absolutely.
So I scribed for him.
Somebody should be able to mute everyone, whoever's in charge, whoever's got control.
You're invading my personal space. So next day I said, okay, would you want me to sit at the table?
Thank you. Sorry about that, everybody. Poor Claire, she probably didn't even know what was going on. So coaching for school improvement is, the idea is to create a culture of allies. And what the research shows, and I've got some details of this research on the program, is that coaching delivers psychological capital. Well, what is that? Well, it's self-efficacy, it's hope, it's resilience, it's optimism, it's that ability to believe you can make a difference in your life. You can actually change the way things are for you. You can actually have that optimism that all of us teachers need. And also, coaching helps with self-regulation because it delivers that psychological capital. And mental fitness. Now, think about mental fitness as being something that's a bit like physical fitness. It preempts mental health issues. It preempts anxiety. It makes you strong enough to understand how to make your thinking work for you. And it does all this, coaching does all this through communication with other human beings and connection, so that you feel you belong, so that you feel you're part of something, so you want to be there at school with your colleagues in the team working together. And peer coaching across departments, across phases, across different job roles is really important for understanding each other and all the challenges that each one of us has in an education setting. Also, coaching challenges limiting beliefs. It actually makes us question our negative automatic thinking. So we have a limiting belief that, oh, I can't do this, don't want to do this. And it actually, those limiting beliefs stop us having that essential cognitive flexibility. And it's never been harder to be a teacher. It's never been harder to be a student. It's never been harder to be a school leader. So we really need to do something to build up the confidence and the sense of self-awareness and belief that anything is possible in our schools. So by tapping into the coaching, using the coaching process, the peer coaching, it reminds us, by holding up a mirror to our thinking with our peer, of what our motivation and purpose is in being a teacher, that we can actually deep down dive into what matters to us and why we did this job, because it's such an important job. And all your school improvement strategies become coaching conversations. So everybody in the school is talking about that behavior management policy, or that way we're going to help with our most able children or most needy special needs children. It's part of their coaching conversation about what they're going to do next. Classroom practice as well. Within my program, we've got instructional coaching, which is very much geared to teaching practice. It's actually about classroom teaching, the habits that over the years as a teacher we begin to find that aren't working for us, and maybe there's more efficient, time-saving ways to do things. And that's what the teachers that I've talked to that have had instructional coaching have found. It's given them a massive insight into how they can change some of the ways they do things to make it easier, to make it more effective, and to make it work. And above all, let's focus on relationships. There's nothing that makes you want to go into school more than good relationships with your staff, your colleagues, with the students. There's a sort of something about being all in it together. There's a sense of belonging that really matters. So as you can see, I'm trying to develop that sort of culture of allies where we're all on the same side. And certainly, looking back on my teaching career, I absolutely loved it. And I felt a joy of going in every day. And I'm not sure we get that feeling so much in some of the situations we're in schools. So it starts off the program with coaching for all, showing everybody how to do a short, structured coaching conversation with your peer, and see how amazed you become about what a difference it can make. Just have somebody really deeply listening to you and giving you time and space to think, and asking you questions that make you think a bit more, get you curious about your thinking. And then when you do that big training session for everybody, including TAs, including some of your admin staff who can be there, you'll have some people that are passionately enthusiastic, like we are, those people who are on today, about coaching and about how it can work and the difference it can make. Because you know what the magic is? It doesn't just help the coachee, it helps the coach as well really understand their own thinking. It's just a win-win. So those people that want to go away and deepen their knowledge, there's the next section of the program is about, for those specialists, the pilots, the champions, the dream team, as Lisa and I called them, go away and deepen their understanding of coaching and coach each other. And then they roll it out to the whole staff. And eventually they coach students, and they teach year 11s to coach year 9s, or year 13s to coach year 11s. And Lisa has done that in her school and found it to be very effective. And eventually you're having students coaching each other and feeling there's somebody else in this school who is my coach, who is looking out for me, who gives me good advice, who helps me in a non-judgmental way to understand how my thinking's working, and gets me to voice it. And as soon as you voice what's going on in your head, it begins to be far less damaging and scary. So actually, those sorts of conversations are really helpful. The next part of my coaching program, the online one, is instructional coaching. And I would definitely recommend that you start instructional coaching, not at the beginning of your journey, but when everybody understands what we mean by coaching. It's very much a partnership, instructional coaching, to work. It's not a judgment. It's someone going in and watching the start of your lessons and then talking to you about how it could be easier or more effective, and giving you a chance to rehearse a new technique, a new strategy, something else you want to improve on. And you'll see from the interviews I've had with teachers on my program that it's really been beneficial to them. And underpinning all of this is the emotion coaching and mindset coaching, which is there on the program for everybody to benefit from, because you are a better coach if you understand how emotions work for children and for adults, and how to manage your mindset, how to grow your mindset, how to feel fearless in terms of your own work that you do on a daily basis, and not just at school, at home, and just raises the level of happiness you've got by understanding how to stand back, take a pause, and reframe. Because reframing is actually if you ever go to cognitive behavior therapy, they'll say, now reframe that thought. And actually, that's what coaching does for you every single time you have that conversation. It helps you get in the habit of reframing. So your coaching journey will start, if you do the program, with a culture audit. So you'll be starting off with thinking, where are we? What are we like? What are people feeling? How are people feeling in our school? What's going on? How do we see it at the moment? And it'll give you an insight into how you're going to use this coaching program. You might say, well, we've already done coaching, but actually, have you done peer coaching? Have you got everybody involved in coaching? And all staff get coach training experience on that first training session. Everybody gets the chance to actually do the 7 minutes. It's called Stride, but you can use other models if you like. The one I use is Stride, where you have just a simple set of questions that take you through a process of coaching that comes to a conclusion. And the idea is, of course, that people, when they do the peer coaching over time, they'll have a coaching notebook, they'll note down what they've decided, what the conversation has been, and all of that journaling is really good as well for mental health. So the coach champions then lead the rollout and perhaps set up a coaching forum where you can actually start getting the data for where you are now, so that you can start measuring the difference between where you've been and where you are in terms of moving forward on all the things your culture audit showed you that maybe need changing, need moving forward. And then you get the students coaching each other, and you find that in instructional coaching IC, you get those coaching partnerships looking at classroom practice. It's a journey we're on here. And that journey is supported by the videos and the interviews and the resources that I provided for emotion and mindset coaching too. You can dip into those and use them. There's everything you need there to help support your staff to be the very best coachings they can be. And of course, where we're heading for on that journey is we're heading for a culture where coaching conversations are what we do. And when a teacher talks to a student, there is a coaching conversation. It's empowering the student to take responsibility and ownership of their change and their decisions. And we've now sort of got a set of what I'm calling cozy awards, the cozy awards, so that we can actually show, you can work through the bronze and the silver and the gold to show how you are putting into practice this coaching program. Now, I hope that's been useful. It's very much a quick introduction. And if you want a bit more, there is the World Education Summit. And I'm actually talking about this on the World Education Summit. And that should be quite interesting. And in fact, I'm going to stop sharing now. You can see that all these slides will be available to you. And you can see this that World Education Summit there on the 18th of March. But also, if you want to, you can hear Andy Vass as well. Now, I'm going to hand over to Andy in a moment. He's a bit my hero. He really is. He doesn't want to hear that. He thinks it's funny, but he really is my hero because he is a coach, and everything he says is like a gem of wisdom to me. And he works with schools, helping all of the schools that he works with make big changes via understanding and getting conscious of their thinking. So, Andy, can I ask you, how do you think that coaching can help schools move forward and improve their results and their resilience and their happiness and well-being?
Sure. Thanks, Jackie. Good evening, everybody. I've been a professional coach for the last sort of 20 years now. I work significantly with schools and school leaders, but I also work with business people and professional sports people. And just to kind of indicate the connections right the way through, the strand that links all those different kind of genres or contexts together is how do you help encourage or facilitate people to have a conversation with themselves, nudged by the coach, encouraged by the coach, that gets them to turn up and be the best version of themselves it's possible to be. And one of my favorite quotes comes from Einstein, and forgive me, I'm probably paraphrasing, and he said, everything should be as simple as possible, but no simpler than it really is. And I think sometimes that's a limit when people are talking about coaching, is they have some concept of complexity. But, when you get to the essence of what coaching really is, when you get to the idea and understanding and awareness of what it makes possible, for me, the question is, why would anybody who's leading an organization and committed to enhancing that organization, to helping people become stronger and more capable, why would anybody not want to explore what coaching can do for them? But it's not a single thing. I think that's the important idea. So to kind of answer my question, it's when people kind of are a little bit kind of skeptical or wary of coaching, I think it's because they've either been hoodwinked or seduced or taken on board some of the many myths that exist around coaching. Sometimes people make it out to be something complex and glorious and so on. It isn't, and it's also incredibly powerful if you're interested in growth, development, well-being, and all those things that Jackie was talking about. One of the myths, and I'll just share some of the common myths that I hear going around the place, but one of them is, we're too busy. We haven't got time. The last thing I can ask people is to add another layer of work to their schedule. And that's a huge myth, because here's the thing. A blindingly obvious question, but do you already have conversations in your school? What sort? About kids, to kids, about staff development, about recruitment, about development plans. Everything gets done through dialogue, through conversation. Now, if you had an opportunity to significantly and consistently enable those conversations to be even more elegant and even more effective, then I suggest you look at what coaching is. It's not about new things. Take the conversations that you already have and see how coaching, in its genuine essence, how can that help those conversations? How can coaching, for example, be useful when you have an irate parent, a stroppy parent coming in, leading off alarming about all these kind of horrendous things that teachers are alleged to have said or done or not done to their kids, or whatever? How do you have a conversation that has the best potential to reach agreement and a solution? How do you have a conversation using coaching to improve kids' work or to manage behavior? Because the thing is, coaching is founded on our ability to ask questions. And in psychology, you may or may not know this, but the brain finds it impossible not to answer a question. So if I say to a child, what's our rule about food in the classroom? I'm not telling them off. I'm not accusing them. I'm not, getting into an adversarial conflict. I'm challenging them to think about what we should be doing. And that's what happens. You'll know this from when you come out of your classroom, and if you've had a bad day, you go, oh, why did that go wrong? And you'll suddenly find lots of thinking going on about wrongness. But a coach would look to get the thinking going the other way. You walk up to a group of kids who are off task, and you say, how are you doing? What do you need to do next? How are you going to set that out? Where are you going to get that information from? What do you need to do to make this the best piece of work you've done this week? That's coaching. It's not a fixed entity. It's not something where you sit down for hours with people and have to kind of drag stuff out of them. It's an everyday run-of-the-mill conversation with intent. And that's why it's so potent, because it's happening, the conversations are happening all the time. Second myth is we haven't got time to do it. Okay, well, I say you haven't got time not to do it, because if you don't coach, if you don't engage in devolving and developing responsibility and initiative and creativity in other people, what you've got to do is micromanage them. You've got to be on top of things. You've got to keep looking for those things. And actually, the research says that that is going to take up a lot more time. There may be people out there going, oh, we've done coaching, it didn't work. My sense is you can't do coaching. As Jackie said, it's a journey. You can't have somebody coming in doing a morning inset or a twilight inset and then expecting everybody to coach. It's got to be a whole school thing. And when we talk about coaching culture, one of the things I'd like you to be aware of is culture is simply a product of the predominant style of conversation in an organization. If the predominant style of conversation is, you know, what's wrong and whose fault is it, that's called a blame culture. If the predominant style of conversation is, here's what's not working, if it were, what would we be doing differently? That's a coaching culture. And it's nuanced, it's subtle, but it's incredibly potent, incredibly potent. Why doesn't it work? Well, a number of reasons. Firstly, that people aren't trained effectively. Secondly, the school or the organization hasn't agreed what we mean as an organization about coaching. What is it that it means to us in our context? And then we go on and go, well, you know, we're going to train one or two people as coaches and then expect them to do it. So I've been in schools where, you know, perhaps the curriculum leaders or heads of department have been trained as a coach, but nobody else is doing it. So it's isolated. It needs to be a cultural thing. It needs to be how we talk to each other and the mindset of that kind of curiosity. Because the other thing is that, you know, in some organizations, coaching is only available if you're not doing well enough. But your best practitioner, your genius magic weaving teachers, they can grow exponentially and feel brilliant from being coached. They can be helped to have a conscious awareness of what makes them so good. And then they become a resource to everybody else. So there's an immense possibility of creating that capacity. What is the essence of coaching? Okay, rhetorical question. How many of you watching this talk to yourselves? Okay, answer, everybody. There may be one or two people going, no, I don't. But you're only saying that to yourself, obviously. Okay, so what proportion, and this is actually what I do for a living now, what proportion of those conversations nourish and nurture your growth and your potential, and what proportion get in the way and deplete and limit your capacity? Okay. What a skilled coach will do is they will redress the balance. They will facilitate your own conversations, your personal narrative in a way that nourishes and enhances you, that takes you towards solutions, that reframes things in a more useful light. Because
can I just jump in there?
Yeah, sorry, I was off on one. I haven't got an off button. I'm sorry.
Oh no, don't worry. That was absolutely, and it's such a good point to make, that what we're aiming for in this program is that everybody has a chance to experience that. We're not saying that everybody's going to become a qualified coach with, as Andy says, you don't have to have, you know, go for 3 years training. But what we do know is that really good communicators use coaching anyway, naturally, almost instinctively. And we can help all of our staff, and to be honest, especially TAs need it, need it more, because they're working with students that they need to empower, and they need to help make sure they're taking responsibility for their own learning. What we're trying to do with this program is I've really tried to keep it so simple and so straightforward that you can take your staff through it, and it can become part of those everyday conversations in the staff room. It can become part of those everyday conversations amongst students and to students. And exactly what Andy is saying about the fact that the benefits you get from just creating this culture where people understand that self-coaching is what we all do anyway. All we're doing is bringing that out and making sure people are conscious of the way they think and how it helps or hinders them. But I'm going, because time is running on, I'm going to hand over to Lisa, just because she has already put this program into practice in her school, and she's just going to take us through how it worked for her and what the benefits were. So Lisa, thank you very much for joining us.
Hi everyone, lovely to be here. So yeah, I had worked in a number of schools where the culture was really quite toxic, and I actually became a much less good teacher than I'd been when I'd felt confident and when I'd felt like I could do things. So when I got to my new school and the leadership was open to it, I had met Jackie at a training session. I'd met her ear for some time after everyone else had gone home about coaching, because that was the bit that really appealed to me. And I decided that I would get permission to set up this coaching system. And it started off, in all honesty, just being an idea that I was fed up with sitting through insets where people told me things I already knew, and I had lots of other things that I wanted to do and lots of other things I wanted to learn, and I wasn't getting to those because I was having to kind of do these set things. So my view was inset could be much more powerful if everybody was spending more time doing the things and working on the things that they wanted to learn about. So we set up a very small team. We asked who would be interested in being involved. We called them the crack team. And they were people who self-selected. Yes, we're really interested in the idea of coaching. Yes, we'd like to do some training. Yes, we'd like to help to start rolling this program out. And it was very much about their enthusiasm to begin with, and the support of senior leadership, who were also very much on board. A couple of them had also joined the crack team. We just started. Jackie came in and did some training with us. We started working in pairs, 5 minutes coaching each way, maybe once every couple of weeks. And we did that for about 2 or 3 months after the initial training. And actually, what was really interesting was that a lot of other staff almost felt like they were being excluded from a secret society. And once we started having these really enthusiastic conversations in the staff room about what we were doing and what we were learning, people wanted to be part of it. So gradually, more and more people got involved, and lots of things started to change and started to happen. And it was really interesting. So we noticed that we were a close staff, but equally there was an office for the English department, there was an office for the PE department, whatever. And we started to notice that staff were spending more time in other people's offices, and they were mixing more. And just the culture, the staff culture became a lot warmer. The school began to feel a lot safer, and it was a safe school to begin with, but it just felt that we were becoming much tighter. Things started to happen in the classroom. So, for example, one of our languages teachers was working with a PE teacher coaching, and while they were observing each other on a completely different matter, she'd noticed that the PE department used students to do a 5-minute warm-up at the beginning of the lesson. So she took that to the modern foreign languages department, where they then started doing verb warm-ups, and the students ran them. It was really successful. So things started to cross-pollinate in a quite interesting way, which we hadn't expected at all. And people's language began to change as we got used to coaching, and we got used to, instead of telling each other things, asking good questions and listening. We found that was rolling out to the playground. So instead of saying, I saw you hit so and so, people were calling children over and saying things like, can you tell me why you think I called you over? Immediately empowering that child to take account of their behaviour, to take responsibility for that behaviour, diffusing confrontation before it started, which in the long run saved lots of time on things like detentions and conversations that just didn't ever need to happen because nobody had wound anybody up. And it just, over time, it just began to be this really noticeable culture change. And after a while, the students noticed it, why is so-and-so in your classroom? And, why are this are these teachers talking about this and what's going on. So we started to roll it out to the students as well. And I think we started with, again, self-selected year 12s who thought they might like to work with some of the younger children. And they started coaching year 7s who were struggling either because of lack of confidence or because of behavioural issues. And we trained them with a very basic coaching conversation, partnered them up. And again, really interesting results in the sense that a lot of the year 12s who were maybe struggling themselves a little bit with their own self-confidence or were still a little bit edgy because they hadn't quite grown out of year 11 started to feel much more responsible, much more confident. The year 7s felt safer, started to kind of have a bond with the year 12s. Again, there was a sense of community building. And over time, we built those programs up. So we ended up with the Key Stage 4 children, some of them coaching Key Stage 3 children. We had staff coaching students who were struggling for different reasons. And eventually we got to a point, and I think this was about 3 years in maybe, where we started to roll it out. So at the end of every grade point, form time, students had like a little pro forma that they could work through where they would coach each other based on their grades. So it would be, what's gone well on your grades, what are you proud of? Then it would be, what are you not so proud of, or are you a little bit worried about? What can you do about that? What is your target going to be for the next grade period? And they'd kind of work through this little pro forma together and then write down at the bottom what their targets were. And again, all these things started to kind of pull together, and we got this real sense of just much more positivity, much more confidence, a real feeling of safety amongst the staff and amongst the students, and just a culture that felt very different in a much more positive way. That's really the best I can describe it, I think.
So, Lisa, isn't it that one of the things that comes out about why children and teachers want to be at a school is it's a really powerful thing, that sense of belonging, that sense of I belong here. And the idea of introducing coaching, and we're not saying it's a quick fix. This is something that would need to be, it's not something, we'll do it for a few months and then if it doesn't work, this is something that you build organically, so that there begins to be a change, a sort of bit of a shift in attitudes, in relationships, and that's what happened in your school. And actually Andy's point about time, and this is something, we don't know if we've got time. I remember coming along one of our sort of review sessions, and somebody said, "Oh well, we do. We were on playground duty. We do our coaching." Do you remember? So how did you make time in terms of training days as well for some of those coaching partnerships?
We had a certain amount of time that we set aside. So, for example, staff meetings. There's quite often a bit of a staff meeting that's a bit of a tail, or there's a bit of spare time somewhere. So we tended to just say, right, we've got 15 minutes at the beginning of a session, or if you'd rather go and get a coffee, you're going to need to fit that 15 minutes in somewhere else during the next 2 weeks. And then people were very much left, again, it gets to a point where you're trusting people to do it, that they're doing it. We all had little records that they had to fill in anyway.
Did they write it down? Did they have coaching?
Yeah, they had little records they had to fill in. And people wanted to do it. That was the thing. People got quite, we did mix the pairs up over time, but people got quite kind of committed to their partner, and they'd want to see how they'd met their target, or what was going to happen with whatever. And we would try, and to start with, it was very much free. You can set your own targets based on anything in your practice that you want to, that you're struggling with. It might be a marking, it might be a behavior management, it might be a very small part of a lesson that's not quite working for you, whatever. But over time, and again, as people got more confident, we would say things like, differentiation is this term's thing. So we'd like your targets to be based around differentiation in some way. And then it was up to people to either identify with their partner or identify for themselves, usually, what it was they wanted to focus on. And then, we'd have people going in and out of classrooms, helping each other to improve that.
Really so powerful to have, CPD, the way we do it, somebody comes in and does a big talk, and then we'll go, oh yeah, that sounds really great, and then we have a list of must-dos from the leadership, and actually it might work for a while, but it's it's trying to make sure that every teacher has a commitment and a way of achieving it in their own way, in their own classroom, to make it work for them. And coaching does this because it goes down as a conversation. Well, this is how I'm going to make sure this is implemented. So you can implement, as school leaders, you can implement your whole school strategies in this way.
It makes it so relevant. I think that's the thing. It's relevant to the person who's setting their own target, so they're completely and utterly committed to delivering it in a way that doesn't work with inset necessarily because somebody else is telling you.
Yeah, because you're accountable to your coach as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to yourself.
What's your thought about that, being able to deliver the whole school strategies via the coaching conversations? Have you seen that work in schools?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I think a strategy is only as good as the people and the level of engagement with the strategy. Otherwise, you get sort of malicious compliance. People nod and then go away and do nothing about it, or pretend they are, or it doesn't work and it's the leadership's fault and all those kinds of things. What coaching is, partly, it's an imaginative journey. So if you're sitting around an SLT meeting and you're planning a whole school strategy or a change of school day or whatever it happens to be, you're having a conversation. If you're approaching it as a coach or with a coaching mindset, you're talking about what will happen, what will be the steps, and the ultimate kind of coaching question is, when this is how we want it to be, what will be different and how will we have got there? Because in the simplest form is, we're here, here's where we'd prefer to be, what do we do to make that journey? And that's the definition of coaching. It comes from getting in a horse and cart and being taken. You go from A to B. In the conversation, there are lots of conversations that happen in schools that aren't coaching. And I'd be the first to say it's not the panacea to everything. Coaching is brilliant, except when it isn't. There are times when coaching isn't applicable, but there are more times when it is. So there has to be some kind of shift, either in thinking or in action. So you can develop a strategy by having those kind of imaginative and creative conversations.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that with the little model that I use, and I think probably with all coaching models, of the 10-minute conversation, because it is, we start off, that big staff training is just, it starts off with a 10-minute conversation. The first thing you ask a question about is, what are your strengths? What's gone well this week? What is your best moment of the week? Because trying to get people in that sense of hope and optimism that things can be good, and then you talk about the target, the reality check, and the journey. And what I love about that you just described, Andy, is the whole idea of that coaching is about a journey. It's about going forward. It's not about moaning about what happened last year and what sort of class we've got and how they're never going to be any good year 8 or whatever it might be. It's about trying to think, we are moving forward here. What do we want it to look like? And what are the first steps that we can commit to move forward? And that can be in your personal life, and it could be in your professional life, and it can be in your life. And I would say that as a coach, and I know Lisa and Andrew will agree with me, it actually, when you're a coach, it actually helps you manage your own thinking, manage your mind, have that metacognition that stands back and says, hang on a minute, why am I reacting like this? Because 10% of how you feel is what happens to you, and 90% is how you react to it. So what we're trying to do is make sure that when you're reacting to things, you're doing it in full knowledge that you're bringing, as Andy says, your best self to the situation, and not your limiting beliefs and your the argument you had last week, with whoever. Can
I just
please
add something to that of a kind of a psychological bent, if you like. By the way, Nancy Klein, in her book Time to Think, says that if you get somebody to say something positive and true about themselves before a meeting or at the start of a meeting, they immediately become more creative, which is a fantastic thing. But listen, we all tell ourselves stories. We all make meaning of events, and those kind of meanings. Well, look, the degree to which we are able to edit and exercise some reflection and control on our personal narratives in a way that enhances us, in a way that refocuses onto resourcefulness, resilience, solutions, is the degree to which we thrive and flourish as a human being. Okay. And what coaching does, what skilled coaching is, it's an encouragement to develop a greater efficacy in being your own script editor, to be your own script writer. Okay. And the more you do that, the more you naturally start to reframe things in a more useful. I'm not talking about being psychotically optimistic and everything's wonderful. Stuff happens, it goes wrong, but you don't check. That's just an event. The meaning you make of that event is what happens next. You don't want to be people. I was in a school a little while ago, and somebody said, "Oh, year 8 are dreadful," and I said, "What? All 180 of them? Is there nobody that's got any value or likability to them?" I didn't mean all of them, and immediately the story's changed. Just with a question, just with a respectful challenge. How do you create your stories?
It's those stories, and and the thing is, we're not even conscious of them half the time. Those programs are sort of running, and we're not even conscious that is influencing our reaction, our decision. Now we're coming to the end, and as you can hear, all three of us are madly passionate about coaching, and we're absolutely passionate about sharing this program with you. And I've just been asked, I'm just going to share something with you because we are getting towards the end now. So I'm just going to share this with you, because this is the brochure that I'm just going to try and see if I can get it a bit smaller. Like that. So this is the coaching school program, and Howard mentioned it. I needed to mention it. So it's all about building those relationships that drive school improvement. And if you are interested, I think Howard's offering a special discount, maybe for people who've been on this webinar and want to sign up for it. And it just takes you through that journey, and it's always a journey with coaching. It's going to be a journey. It's not like, this time next week will have changed everything, but it's such a magical power. It's such an important thing, and if you could bring it into your school, I think you really will find it will make a difference. So if anybody, I'm going to stop sharing that, because that's the brochure. If you want that, if you can email me, or if you can email Howard, you will get that. Is that right, Howard?
Yes. I think it would be a good idea. People are going to get the brochure and an invitation to maybe get a reduction if they'd like to subscribe to the program. But I think it might be an idea, Jackie, if you went quickly through the structure of the program. Daniel's going to put something up, and you can talk to how the program actually works in practice.
Well, I can talk about that without even Daniel putting anything up, because it starts off with the culture audit. So you start off thinking, right, okay, where are we now? And I went through this on the first slide. Where are we now as a school? Let's have a look. Let's have a really serious reflection as a leadership team on where we are. And once you've done the culture audit, it will give you a steer, because you might already be doing students coaching each other. You might already be having some coaching for your leadership team, and it will give you some sort of idea of how has that impacted on your culture, and the sorts of things we can get from having a coaching culture. The sorts of culture we were after is trust, is retention of staff, retention of pupils, is attendance, is good exam outcomes, because that is part of it as well. And also it's those staff surveys where people talk about how happy they are, how much they want to go to school in the morning, and all those things. So on the culture audit, it will give you a lovely reflection and review of where you are. And once you've done that, you will then plan. You might decide to then put somebody in charge, being the leader of this program. But you might decide as a leadership team, say, let's do the coaching, let's do the training for everybody first of all. So you'll have your whole staff in there, and you will do some talking about what coaching is, what we mean by it, what we're aiming for in terms of this as a school development opportunity. And then once you've talked about coaching, and there's lots of activities I've got on the program that you can get your staff to take part in, about listening exercises and speaking exercises and understanding how we grow and how our minds work and all that sort of thing, is all on the PowerPoints that are available to you and the videos that are available to you. And then you will train everybody, and they'll all have an actual experience of working together in pairs or in threes, coaching each other using the stride model, which takes you through a set of questions, which is a 10-minute stride model. And when I've done this and actually done training in this, people say at the end of it, I say, just think of a little problem you've got, something you've been worrying about for a while. It could be personal, professional, it could be a little bit of both. And just think of that one thing that you'd like to make a change on, and go through the stride model with this person coaching you. And the amazing thing is that at the end of it, there's never been a time, and it happened, and Lisa can back me up on this, there's never been a time when I've said, hey, everybody, what did you find out there? And they all said, wow, we couldn't believe we had a 10-minute conversation. And actually, I've just reframed it. I've seen it in a different way, because this, and I always say, how did your coach help you? What did they do? And they always talk about the listening bit, about opportunity to have a mirror held up to how they've been thinking about that problem, and they become more creative. As Andy says, they become more creative because they're in a conversation with trust, they're in a conversation that's open, non-judgmental, and they've come up with a new solution. And I'm not saying every single person in the room of 200 people says the same thing, but nearly everybody does say that 10-minute was an insight into how coaching could work. And then from there, you'll get people coming up to you and saying, oh, I can't wait, I want to do this, this is absolutely my thing. And they will become your coach champions. We called them the dream team, didn't we, Lisa, in your school? The dream team. And they will do more investigation, more training, coaching, and then they will start coaching each other, and they will learn from that. And then they will start coaching other people, roll it out to the rest of the staff. This is over a period of about a term. They will start coaching other people who want it. It's no good forcing anyone to be coached. It won't work. So you get people volunteering and being willing to have a coaching conversation and have their coaching notebooks, and it becomes part of what you're doing, and it includes everybody. It includes TAs, it includes admin staff, it includes your playground supervisors, and then everybody's starting to have these coaching conversations and recognizing them. And after that, you've got an opportunity for the dream team, who have now perhaps been coaching for a couple of terms, to think, could we use this with our students? Could we take volunteers and train them up to be coaches? And you've got all the resources in there to do this thing, to actually train your students. And following that, you can train the students in being good listeners, being obviously all the safeguarding elements. You're going to have a coaching forum where everybody can come to for advice and supervision about coaching, and then you're going to do some experiments and piloting of students coaching students, and see how that works out. And that's going to organically grow because everyone will love it. And by the way, let's teach parents how to coach their kids, so that those conversations are being had, parents to students, the children, and they're actually learning how coaching works. And let's teach our students to coach their parents. Wouldn't that be brilliant? So they're having those conversations at home and understanding how coaching works so much more powerfully. If you want to help people change their minds, change their thinking, grow their emotional intelligence. We haven't even mentioned that word, but this is what we're growing here. And then ultimately you've got everybody thinking coaching works. There'll be some naysayers. But they'll feel left out, like Lisa found in her school. They'll feel a bit left out. I want a coach. They'll think it's time for them. It's time to be listened to. And finally, you'll then find, let's really take this forward in terms of teaching practice. And you might want to introduce the detail. And I've got a whole program on instructional coaching and video, materials, websites for you to use. and even the data spreadsheet and webinar that you can use on that. So there's that, you can then do that classroom practice coaching where it's specifically about that. It could have been about that already, but this is very specifically about supporting classroom practice. And finally, you know, you keep rolling this out, coaches can change, and eventually you go for your award. You look at the award document that I've got that actually shows you what we should be doing. If we want to get a bronze award, silver award, gold award. And actually, Lisa, because we didn't have those in those days, you went for your accreditation through the coaching, didn't you, Lisa? What was it?
We went through Coach Mark, which is Will Thomas Vision, I think. And we actually got a silver coaching award in the end, which was at the point where I moved on to my next school. But yeah, it was really good, and it basically meant that you were able to do the same sort of audit that you've got on your course, actually, Jackie, which was really helpful. What are we doing well? What are we not yet doing that we need to do? And we were very clear where we were going next to get gold. So that was where we would have been heading afterwards. Can I just add one really quick thing as well? I know we've got very little bit of time, but one of the things that I did, I then went on and did a master's where my dissertation was about coaching. And it was about the power of coaching to keep teachers within schools and to prevent them from burning out. And overwhelmingly, it was demonstrated that teachers who are properly coaching and properly part of a coaching culture like that are far more likely to stay in their jobs and far less likely to burn out. So I just thought I'd add that.
I remember that now.
But sorry, Jackie, can I just two things very, very quickly, picking up from Lisa. One of the things that very few schools consider is when a new member of staff at any level, whether they're on the senior leadership team or they're an ECT, join the school, they get a coach by right to help induct them into the school and its values and so on. I think that's an incredibly powerful thing, and clearly links to what Lisa was saying about, you know, retention, because it's a minefield joining a new school. You know, we've all done it dozens of times, and somebody to guide you through and to challenge your thinking and to help you reflect is incredibly powerful. The other really vital point I want to make is that you don't have to have a problem to benefit from coaching.
Yes, very good.
If there's anything in any of your staff that they feel they would like to be even better at, a coach will help them get there, and a coach will help them understand what they mean by even better and what it would look like and what they will be doing when they are even better.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Andy. Thank you so much, Lisa and Andy. We haven't really got any time for questions unless anyone's got anything burning they'd like to say. I haven't got much on the chat, but if anyone's got a question they'd like to unmute themselves and ask it, by all means do. I'm sure you're all keen to get home on this nice light evening in the UK.
Cool. Where are you?
Nice. It's light. It's too light. The evenings are drawing out. Let's go for it. Go for it. Right. Well, I think that that's it. Is there anything else you want to add, Howard?
No, people will be getting some further information from us, and you can, if you go onto teachingtimes.com and then click on courses, you'll find a detailed curriculum of the program.
And there's also an introductory video and things on there, isn't there, Howard?
Yes, so I think that's worth doing for everyone.
And on the World Education Summit, I do actually go through a lot of some interesting stuff from the program in there as well. It's a sort of 45-minute recorded talk on there. Thank you so much, everybody who stuck it out to the end. Really appreciate it. Best of luck with it. I really hope that it works for you. But thank you very much for coming, for attending.
Yes, thanks very much, and goodbye.
Goodbye. Thanks, Andy.